Hello, hello. What's up? What's up? It is a new day, it is a new week, and it's time to get social. My name is KaVonna, and welcome to the Introvert's Social Hour. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a special Valentine's Day bonus episode. I'm super, super excited. It's going to be a lot of laughter. We're talking about love. And I'm just, if you know me, I am a rom com girly at heart. And I cannot wait to tell like an in person story that I got to experience with two of my friends, Summer and James. I first of all, love their story, which is why I brought them on. I was there for it, I was present for it, which is something really cool to say. But two friends from college and how they became what they are today. So let me tell you who they are. So we got James. James is a part-time engineer and full-time fan of most things nerdy. James attended UC San Diego and now lives with Summer in Northern California. Oh my gosh, my notes kind of cut off. I just saw this. I'm so sorry, James. I'm gonna mess it up because some of my words are missing on my paper. I just realized. Um, but I'm gonna
That's
say
okay.
that I can fill this in though. James enjoys playing video games, watching shows, and looking for his next music obsession. His favorite pastime is spending time with Summer, whether that's exploring um Ex oh my goodness. I'm so mad that I didn't notice this. Exploring dot dot dot. I'm so sorry, James. If you have the answer for that.
It's new places, so
Okay,
you know,
okay, new playlist. And
could have said anything. Yeah.
okay, yeah. I didn't want to be like he enjoys this, exploring this. And then he finds a lot of joy in searching for new Squishmallows, figures, and books. Summer, I'm apologizing in advance too because my notes are cut off again.
It's okay. I
So,
have it if you need
oh
it.
bam. Okay, so I'm
You
ready.
had mine down anyways, so that was perfect.
Okay, cool. Summer is a lifelong fangirl living in Northern California with her collection of books and obnoxiously cute squishmallows. She spend dot 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 Summer.
I spend my days reading, writing, and designing merch about my favorite things.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Summer has a degree in writing from UC San Diego, which is also where she met James. Her favorite activities to do with James are visiting.
New places in our matching Crocs, stargazing, and watching TV shows.
They share a love for Star Wars, Doctor Who, and Squishmallows. That was rough, but I'm keeping it in. So please
Okay.
welcome James and Summer to the podcast. If it's not, natural, then what is it really? So, hey, first of
It's
all,
true.
welcome.
Thank you
Ex-
very much.
Thanks for
It
yes.
was a
having
great
us.
intro. I liked it. Yeah.
There's one of a kind. I've never had that struggle before, actually. I was like, wait, why did it not print out all the way? This is a struggle. It's okay though. Um, as I said already, like when I thought about doing a Valentine's Day episode, y'all were like the first people I thought of as far as like, oh my gosh, who would I want to like kind of like interview or just talk to and pull in? Summer, you're my home skilly biscuit. So like it's just like I think about a lot of like what we talked about prior to you and James even getting together. And it's just like such a cute, like full circle moment. And so I was like, oh, I would love to like be able to revisit it and then also just like you share your story with the audience. I know a lot of our friends are really excited to like relive the experience, and I say relive because they they were also present for it. But it's good. I also really love that we're gonna get like more of James's perspective as well. Because I feel like I know most of Summers, but like getting James' perspective from it, it's gonna be really fun. But welcome. How are y'all doing today?
I'm honored. I think it's so cute. Well, I am also a fellow hopeless romantic. So I just think it's like a dream come true that I was able to have that in my life. And the fact that it's being validated by other people outside as well, I am just like, wow, I really do have it. It's like so great.
Yeah, it did warm my heart a bit when she said, "Oh, that you were the first person people that you thought of for was us." So that's really nice. I appreciate it so much. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into the details of it all for the first time. Really, I don't feel like we haven't had a debrief of our history summer, so this will be interesting.
LOL. That's so funny though. As you say it, like a debrief. Like let's break it down. That's true though. LOL. So I know. the general like breakdown, but let's setting the scene for the people who don't know in college. We knew that y'all met in college, but how did we get from friends to then more than friends? So let's set the scene. How did y'all meet first?
So we first met essentially as RAs, as you know, KaVonna. So all three of us, actually, for everybody listening, we're RAs together. We were all at the same college. Me and KaVonna are the same year. Summer's a year younger. So the first time that we met was a year that KaVonna and I were returning, and Summer was coming in as a brand new RA. And I think the first time that we really got a chance to know each other was at our first HA date, as we call it, which is essentially just a chance for all the different new RAs and returning RAs to kind of get to know each other, to get a feel for who they think they'd be a good partner with. And yeah, it was a good starting point.
Yeah, I had already known that thought I was going to vibe with James, just because in our group settings and meet and greets, he seemed very like funny and easygoing. So I was really excited for our meet and greet date. He was late, I will
Okay.
say.
She's
He was
right. She's
late.
not wrong.
So I'm docked a few points for that at the beginning
Okay.
of our friendship. And when we were like ranking each other, for those listening, we had a really, I guess it's like weird way of matching, because they totally could have just like made it random, but they didn't. Our
Mhm.
supervisors had us meet with almost everyone
Mhm.
of our colleagues, and we would basically rank them, 1 through 25. Who would you like to work with?
Mhm.
And James, what we just talked about this, James was not my number one, everyone, but he was in my top 3.
We
Yeah,
lost
And
points because he was late. That's
yeah,
why.
he was late,
it
Immediate
was the
dog.
lateness.
literally. But our supervisors, they work their magic, and somehow we ended up being like work partners, because we all got paired off. And so I think that first year of us being partners just gave us a lot more time to connect and interact with each other. And
Mhm.
that really like laid the seed, quote unquote, for the next year, our second year of knowing each other as like friends, before it developed into anything more than that.
Mhm. Okay. So,
James?
okay, so so we had the HA dates. Also, for people who don't know, HA is house advisor. House advisor and RA are the same thing. RA as in resident assistant. So we were like those people who, if you were caught smoking, we had to get you. Like, just don't let us see it. Like,
I
just don't
love that
do
you
it.
describe it like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the main thing that people think of externally now that I've been out of college world. I'm like, oh, I was a RA. I just say RA because nobody like I'll be like I was a RA, and they're
Yep.
like, oh, so you were the person who like was in charge of making sure stuff went. I was like, yes, basically. More than that, more I feel like more of our job was actually event planning. Um,
Mhm.
that's what makes it HA very different, but that's a whole other breakdown for a different
Wow.
day. Um. But so okay, so James was late. He was in at least top 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, you started you were doing e-house. Yes?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
e-house?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were HAs for e-house. When did you start realizing, I'm gonna ask both of you because it might be a different answer. It's not gonna be exact. I don't expect it to be. When you start realizing, okay, I kind of like this person a little bit more than I thought I would.
So I think we both have a little bit of different timelines for this one, right,
Yeah.
Summer?
Yeah.
So at least for me, so for that first year where we were just partners, me being the person that I am, I think that I was very much the type of person that was like, okay, yeah, I like love getting along with this person. Like we are like great friends. Like it's so easy to talk to her. But I was still very much in like the, oh yeah, like we are like essentially business partners almost, how
Yeah.
we're both overseeing. We're like the persons that are overlooking and like programming and planning events for the people in our house and our residence. So I honestly I don't think my true romantic feelings were unlocked until we had gotten past that barrier of being partners.
He's saying
Further
he
on
has
in
nothing, Kiwana. He's saying he has nothing for that year, that first year.
He said,
Nothing but
can't really.
positive things.
Yeah.
Positive platonic.
Yes. Because I'm trying to match up because I'm also confusing my timeline here. E House, that was second year. So, but that was technically that was your first year though, Summer. But
That was
our
your
second year.
last year in college,
That's what
KaVonna.
I thought.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So then it was after we graduated.
So, but the thing was, you graduated during COVID. Like,
Exactly.
that's like the thing. So,
Hmm.
2019, fall of 2019,
Hmm.
James and I became co-working partners. We got
Yeah.
paired up, right? And I had like a micro crush on him during our summer of training.
Okay.
And I was like trying to explain it to James earlier that it wasn't like a full blown crush because I don't like to think that our entire relationship was me having a crush on him, right? It was like more than that.
Hmm.
And so I kind of described it like that, like person in class that you're like, ooh, they're like really cool. Or someone who like holds the door open for you when you go like grocery shopping, or
Yeah.
person who lends you a pencil, like a micro crush, right?
Hmm.
And so I think I had that inkling throughout the year, and we had just been like, in constant communication because we were partners and we planned a lot of events. And so I remember thinking that like, hey, I feel like this is different than our other friends partnerships, and here's why. Because when James and I texted, we weren't like flirty or anything like that, but we remained in like very consistent communication. Good
Hmm.
mornings, good nights. What are you
Hmm.
doing today? Very
Yeah.
like consistent communication. And so I remember asking like our friends, I remember asking Joyce, I remember asking you, KaVonna. I'm like, how often do you message your partner? Or like, how often do you talk? And the answers would vary to be like, oh, once a week when we plan stuff, or like, oh, twice a week at like events and stuff. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, good to know. And I would like show Joyce and I'd be like, you and Kat don't talk like this. That was her partner. And I would scroll through my text with James and she'd be like, oh my goodness. No.
So good to I thought it was so Joyce. Good to
And that was my first
Oh.
inkling that I was like, oh, like I really enjoy like getting to know James. And the very first time we had a break, so like Thanksgiving break, we didn't message each other because, we're with our families, we have no work stuff. And I really like felt like a missing feeling, just like how I would like miss my friends from home, whom
Mhm.
I love and adore with all my heart. So I'm just like, wow, maybe I have like really strong feelings for James.
Aw.
And then, before I could act on anything, COVID hit March 2020.
Mhm.
And then that was basically the end of our partnership working together
Mhm.
because a lot of people had opted to, move home and be with their families for the quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I was one of those people that did make the decision to go home and spend some time with family. That was when COVID was first starting out. My sister got it like right off the bat, and it was, we didn't know how severe it might have been. She had pretty severe symptoms. So
Mhm.
I communicated with Summer. I made sure that she was aware that I was leaving, and I felt so bad because
Mhm.
I felt like I was just leaving her hanging like with the job, yeah, as RAs,
Mhm.
and not even to mention that like basically I'd also be leaving a friend, right? And
Mhm.
we'd been working so closely together for that first half of the year. I also got used to the constant communication. It was just so easy. It was just like it wasn't even like a second thought of like, oh yeah, like I'll just text Summer today, like, oh, how are you doing? Not even like anything to do with, RA stuff.
Mhm.
And it was a change to get removed from that environment, So I think
Mhm.
that was like almost like a break, right? A pausing point, and just like how much
Mhm.
we were able to talk to each other and all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to add an insert. I
Go for
just want to add an
it.
insert. As someone who was present, as you said, you would ask, you'd be like, hey, we're messaging all the time. As once again, as a hopeless romantic, I was seeing this and I was like, I'll wait until y'all figure it out, but y'all like each other. I was like, mm-hmm. I was like, I'm gonna just sit here. Summer, I knew you. Already knew because we had talked about it. I already
Yeah.
knew, And then I knew before you told me, and I don't know if I ever told you that as well, by the way.
She read
Whatever.
you. Read you like a
Whatever.
book.
But yeah, so I was just like, I remember you'd say that. Y'all used to like watch like anime together at certain points in times and like a lot.
Yes.
And yeah. So I was just like, mm-hmm. I was like, yep. Because I was like, nobody's spending this much time with somebody they don't like. I was like,
There,
exactly.
there was that one time, I believe it was in the HA lounge. So, we had a lounge for our coworkers to like, do homework in, watch movies in, hang out in. And James and I were in there a lot, like doing homework and stuff, just because it was his 4th year and my 3rd year. We were doing, our core classes. It was really intense. So I was up quite frequently. And I was like, oh, you like anime? I like anime. Let's watch a movie or let's watch rom-coms if you want to bring up rom-com squad, KaVonna,
Yeah, I gotta give a
because
shout out.
James is like a rom-com connoisseur, I guess. He loves rom-coms.
So I grew up with all those like 2000s rom-coms, right? Like those like The Proposal, 50 First Dates, all those like what I consider classics in my opinion. I like
Yes.
always go back to them still now to this day, and watch them
Those
all the time.
those are not classics for me just because I grew up in a very, traditional first generation immigrant home.
Mhm.
My parents are not going to put on The Proposal. They don't, you know.
Yeah.
And so I also enjoy reading much more and I enjoy TV shows much more because I feel like you get to spend more time with the character than like 90 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And so after saying that to James, we were down. We are like, okay, once a week, bonding time. Me
We both
over
had stuff to
here,
end. We had stuff to introduce to each other. It was perfect.
me
Mhm.
over here being like having a little bite of the love bug. I'm like, okay, once a week, James, let's do it. And KaVonna, I think you walked in on it, not walked in. You came into the you came into the HA lounge while we were doing one of these hangouts and we had a movie on and we were
Okay.
doing face masks.
Yes, I don't know why the face mask part clicked for me, but yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was really fun.
Mhm.
And that was, I consider, one of our first like official, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have like more than a micro crush now, right? It's like a
Yeah.
real crush.
My little
So
rom-com heart. Do you know, because I don't think I realized how cute y'all are being. Y'all are watching rom-coms and like animes and putting face masks on, hanging out, saying hello, good night, good morning, like all of that. I was
and
just like, oh,
KaVonna,
And
here, let me tell you this. Go ahead, James. Go
go
I
ahead.
was
ahead,
gonna
James.
say a little embarrassing, Kavana, but to be honest, I was right there with you, just
Oh,
because of how oblivious I was. Like, and
mhm,
looking back, it's so like clear now. Even like
mhm,
even my own feelings, right? Like I was not thinking about any of that,
yeah,
and I was just like, oh, like wow, we have such a good like working relationship as HA. Like, I love hanging out with her, and oh man, like it really was like a lot of like precious time and a lot of precious memories. Like, even though we weren't dating, like even just like looking back, it's like we had a lot of like good times like back then beyond like
yeah,
I guess beyond the usual like working, HA stuff. And
yeah.
I love that. Like it was great. So thank you
Oh,
for, initiating a lot of those, Summer. I think it worked out in the end.
without her even realizing it 100%. She just wanted to hang
Yeah.
out with you. Were you gonna say somewhere before?
I was gonna say, like, I love that we were able to be friends before anything like developed. I love that James uses the word like precious because when I look back on that time, like, yes, we do that all the time now, especially because we're living together. Skincare, movies, date nights, it's like wonderful. And my heart beats just as fast as that first time, it's like very nice.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
oh my gosh, cheesy, cut that out.
No, but that's so cute though, because Summer, oh, it's so cute because, like I said, I think back, like, I remember when I had just met you for the first time. You were this cute little freshman. You didn't know what you were doing. You were just kind of vibing with life. You were having drama issues that I was just like, girl, like, it was just a whole lot. And then, like, reconvening, and then we found out that we like books, and then we're talking to each other in Tanaya Hall as we're painting our posters. And it's just like I just remember all the things we talked about. So it's just like it's so cute. You just sit in it. Just sit in it.
This
I
is
mean,
almost this is a side note. Do you all remember our like Lonely Hearts Club thing that we
Hey, chillax. I'm triggered by that every
no.
or is that that's an off the
No, I'm
podcast
just
talk?
kidding. No, it's totally fine. I thought about that because who oh my
It
gosh,
was
that's hilarious.
it was
I
Ava
think
as
about
well. It was
it was Ava
yeah,
as
that's
well. Shout out to Ava.
mhm.
Um Also HA Lounge. This was way earlier on. So it had to be fall, right? I think it was
Yep,
fall.
Yeah.
I think so
And
too.
we were talking about something and I was like I burst into tears and it was over from there. We all started crying.
People listening, it's so hard to put into words. It really is an indescribable experience because having that lounge and just people coming and going, you find yourself in like the oddest mix of people that you would have never been like, oh, let's go grab coffee, let's go hang out. But because we had that lounge and 26 RAs like rotating through there, it was such like a hodgepodge. It was great.
Hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Budget.
And so yeah, it was you, so KaVonna, James, me, and our friend Ava. And I think we were talking about, just life, finding ourselves, personally, romantically. And something like really clicked in our conversation. It was scratching more than the surface level,
Mm-hmm.
right? And KaVonna, you did burst into tears.
And
And it
I don't be
was,
crying. I don't be crying like that. Just I had to insert that real quick.
and it really resonated with me. And at this point, this has like nothing to do with like me and James's personal romantic relationship.
Hmm.
That moment as like, four friends bonding over how we're walking through life, experiencing like love, how we believe that we do or do not deserve to feel love, stuff like that. It was really resonating. And I'm so
Hmm.
glad that I met you both all,
Hmm.
during a very
Hmm.
formative time of my life. Because I was a
Yeah.
very lost freshman, and I'm very happy that I found myself surrounded by
Yeah.
lovely people. So it was great.
Oh, look at us. Look at us. But yeah, no, like as you said, that the lounge, like and any form of like community gathering, I feel like, because even you, I had a moment where you said like James loves rom-coms. I was like, oh my gosh, you sure are right. Because when we started rom-com squad in Half Dome, like he was giving opinions about the rom-coms, you dropping facts.
I have my list, yeah.
Yes, he has a list, exactly. We should have pulled you for the rom-com episode for the movies. I didn't even. Hey, next time, James. Next time.
Hey, if you have a decades one, I got you with the 2000s for sure. Maybe
Okay.
2010s a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, it kind of fell off to be fair. So, yeah.
understandable.
Um, but yeah, no, like even those moments where we're like all like watching Leap Year and having a blast or just like different things like that. So,
That was a
I
good
think
one.
right. So I just
That
think
was a
about that. Um, but so what I'm hearing was to get us back, I'm hearing that one, we went from friends. We started as friends first. I know that, but
good
I'm recapping for my audience here. And I really do think that that is the beauty of it. Like, I feel like, and once again, like that everybody's opinions are different, but I feel like you really got to learn how to be friends to understand each other on the basis there, and then to be able to go into more. I feel like you can't if you can't. I feel like relationships don't work if we don't see a friendship in them, from my experience of what I have seen. So I just think that's really cute. And that your just general relationship of friends to being together, living together, like that was gradual and necessary to like be able to understand each other more. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like even earlier today, like we were talking about, our relationship just to, get a little ready for this podcast. And
Mhm.
I basically word for word said exactly what you said, Kavana, that again, like everybody has different opinions and different like personal journeys, right? But for me, I've always thought that like in order to have like a successful relationship with someone, you do need to get to know them on, a different level than you might find in like a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
You kind of get to know them as like a friend, as someone that you can rely on in other ways, or someone that you can hang out with, and with in different groups and whatnot. Just it's just a whole different ballpark almost, and it's like you get to see a different side of them before you take that next step into something more.
Yeah. That's so cool.
For
For me,
me, I'm happy that we're compatible in that sense, because I know for me it was really important to get to know someone before opening up, like um deeper into friendship and, you know, becoming partners and romantically. um it felt like a very, I don't want to use the word smooth transition, but it was very nice, I guess is
yeah.
the best word,
Okay.
because we had already done the groundwork of like being friends. And
Mhm.
then that next year, my fourth year of college, his fifth year of college, when we came back and we had all this history, quote unquote, right? 1 year.
Mhm.
But we did know each other and we were friends. And it was very nice. And so when we introduced romantic feelings into that, it just felt like we were already doing the groundwork,
It just fell
already
into
scratching.
place. Yeah,
Yeah, it fell into place. It was very nice. And to this day, James is definitely my best friend in the whole wide world. So
BFUs.
likewise.
yeah, he might have some competition there. So if my childhood best friends ever hear this podcast, I'm sorry.
It's like I
I'm
still
fighting
love
for that
you.
spot.
That's actually a good transition. So let's setting the scene into the next year. So I
Mhm.
realize I flipped it around a bit. James, yes, you still because engineering, bless you, because yes, that's not easy. But because engineering, you had that extra year, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
I did blend that. So how did we go from friends to okay, wait, hold up. I think this is worth being more because I have a few moments in my head that I happen to be present for, even though I wasn't present for, like Target and stuff, raising
Oh
kids.
yeah, I would
But
love to
yeah,
talk about that one.
but please, y'all tell me, give me the information, give me the facts.
Can I tell the first part, my
Yeah.
love, and then you can jump
Yeah,
in whenever you want.
of course, of course. Go for it.
Okay, so March 2020, James had decided to go home for the quarantine. Much like other people at UCSD, they released them from their contracts, and a lot of residents also moved home to, you know, finish off the school year remotely.
Mhm.
And in fall of 2020, we came back. KaVonna, you had graduated. You go, girl.
Yeah. Oh, no, you go,
But
girl. You go, go. Thank you.
but I had stayed that entire time. So in March, when James told me that he was leaving, I had stayed because I had a support system in the area. And so I made the decision to stay.
Mhm.
And so when we came back, James and I had almost zero contact throughout that entire, like, what is that, like
Like
six
March,
to 7 months?
August.
It was like a half a
Yeah,
year,
March
yeah.
to August.
Okay. Okay.
Like no contact. And dang, during that summer, I was like, ooh, yeah, I definitely have a crush now. That man is gone. He's gone. And I'm so sad that I never shot my shot. And I
Mhm.
remember talking to people, I'm like, wow, should have shot my shot. At that
Mhm.
point, it was like so obvious to everyone that I had like a crush.
Mhm.
And so when James came back, I was like, okay, hyping myself up. We got to do this. Like training in the summer because we had gotten rehired, right?
Mhm.
But we were not paired up as partners this time. We were just one of the 26, you know?
Mhm.
And we were getting ready for move in. And I remember thinking, I was being hyped up. Joyce was hyping me up. Sabrina hyping me up, man. She was like, okay, man, like, you just got to shoot your shot. It's your last year here, summer. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? You're never going to see that man again. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. So I made the decision because I didn't want anything serious to start towards the end of the school year. Cause I think it's like really tragic, like couple months towards graduation, if you develop like really strong feelings for someone. I'm not gonna want to move in with someone, you know, 3 months in, or what am I going to move to you? Are we going to do long distance? I didn't know if I was capable of that. It was like a lot. I thought this through.
Yeah, I'm about to say you were thinking ahead. You had a
I
year
know.
plan.
As Taylor Swift would say, I'm a mastermind. It
There
was
we
great.
go.
But I had decided, like, okay, if nothing comes of it by December of 2020,
Hmm.
I'm gonna cut the show, right? I'm gonna not pursue it. And just like many of my previous crushes in my life, it would die out, fizzle out, and I would return to being yet another hopeless romantic, right? But James came back, and I guess he was like open to seeing my feelings because I was laying on the flirting, KaVonna. I was
Okay.
laying on the
Yeah,
flirting.
so
Can
as
I?
oblivious as I was before, I definitely
Okay.
picked up on that one.
Let
This,
her ask her
yeah, yeah,
question
go
first.
ahead, Kiwa.
So, what was the first step that you were like, okay, I'm jumping into flirting territory? Like, where did was it hey, we're meeting up for lunch, or was it messaging? Like, what happened? And then James, where what happened when you realized there was a switch? So those are my two questions.
So I'm
Well,
gonna say mine, and then he'll tell you how he like noticed.
Mhm.
well, can I say something really quick before you get into
Yes, of
that?
course.
I just wanted to say that, like, as we know, I went home for COVID and I was, basically isolated by myself with my parents, but, wholly by myself for those 6 months. Um, I think that time, as obviously as bad as COVID is and was, I think that was really formative for me. I think it's something that I really needed for myself, as a person, like
Yeah.
definitely before COVID, relationships and like stuff like that wasn't something that I was really looking for or focused on. And in addition, I was just having, I was coming to terms with going in for my 5th year as an engineer, of course, in college.
Mhm.
Struggling with school a bit. And I think that just having that time to myself really helped me center and like refine like who I was and who I wanted to be and what I was kind of looking for out of life. So going back and jumping into this new final year, I think I was in a lot better of a headspace, a lot more open to different experiences and new ideas. And yeah, I think that I was just in a really good spot to be like jumping into stuff like that. I will say, jumping into it as well, I had a little bit of doubt. I thought that Summer was upset with me, and as closer and closer we got to getting back to school, I thought she was mad at me or had some sort of like tiny grudge
Oh,
towards me because
Isn't
I
that
had
wild?
left. It is a little wild looking back, but it's
yeah, I
because
have a
I felt so
question.
bad for leaving her for like COVID. Like I wanted to
Oh.
stay the whole year, and if I like, yeah, if there was like not extenuating circumstances at home, I like absolutely would have stayed, and I just felt so like guilty, and I was like, oh man, like usually she reaches out to text, and I haven't reached out to text, but she hasn't reached out at all, so I don't know. Maybe
Oh
she's
my
upset. Like
goodness.
I'm gonna get back, and she's not gonna want to talk to me. So that's kind of where my head was at when we first got into the year. So Summer, go for it. You can talk about your side of things now with
I
that
just
in
want to
mind.
say that's hilarious first before because sir, it was COVID. Like, so you thought someone was mad at you, and then you also weren't texting. But that's just so funny because you're not the only person who's done something like that. Where it's like, oh,
Oh
they're mad
yeah.
at me because they didn't text, but I'm also not messaging. Okay.
Yeah. So previously, I'm like backtracking a little. KaVonna, when you were still in school, I remember a specific conversation because you were on duty. So you were like
Mhm.
on call in the office,
Okay.
and we were talking, and you were like, Summer, you have to, like, you think he knows? And I'm like, he has to know, KaVonna. I'm making it so obvious right now. And you're like, okay, how are you making it obvious? Right. And I'm like, okay, I do this thing that I've seen in the movies and in books where I'll make like eye contact. I'll make like eye
Mhm.
contact. And then I would look at his lips and I
Stop.
wouldn't
Why
like
did...
do anything. I wouldn't like do anything weird. I would just like make eye contact, glance at his lips, and then remake eye contact. And I'm just like, okay,
I
just
remember this conversation, and I'm so sorry, Summer. I'm getting like secondhand embarrassment again, all over from it.
it was horrible.
And I will say that first year I definitely noticed it,
Okay.
but as oblivious as I was like, oh, it's just the way, she talks to people. She just, looks at their whole face. It's very nice of her.
I wish people saw Summer's face when he just said that. First off, that's
Oh my
hilarious.
gosh. I'm like tomato red right now. That is like so embarrassing to say. But I like adore that I did that. It's so cute. And you know, I grew up like reading romance novels and watching TV shows and movies, like dreaming about love. And so I was like, dang, I really have to like pull this one out. I really gotta like do this.
Mm-hmm.
But so that was like subtle. So I'm glad that James wasn't like, oh, she's weird. That's just how she communicates. Yeah, I'm like
If
very
anything,
glad.
it was very sweet. So
Yeah.
definitely remember those licks.
Me stepping on the acceleration for my flirting chess game that I'm about to do
Okay.
with James. During move-in, KaVonna, you know this, as every RA knows when they're helping with residents moving in, especially with COVID restrictions. Out of the 26 of our coworkers, everyone was assigned a role, whether it's helping parents find parking or like checking in residents to their rooms, stuff like that. I remember being like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I have like nothing to lose. So me and someone else were assigned to help people park. And that one's like one of the easier like duties that we had, shifts that we had. And so I remember saying like, hey, do you mind like covering me for like 15 to 30 minutes? I need to go do something really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, sure. And I looked at our schedule. I was like, okay, where's James? I found James. He
Okay.
was doing a solo job, so no one else was with him. He was checking in people for their rooms, like
Okay.
teaching them how to use their key card.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked over and I was like, "Hey, I'm like on a break. Like, is anyone like sitting with you?" And he's like, "Oh no, here." And I would like help him check in people because sometimes it would get like swamped and stuff. And, you know, I scooted my chair as comfortably close as I was willing to.
Okay.
And I stayed there for the rest of the shift. I feel so bad.
You left
Well,
your person?
I did leave my
She
person.
did leave her person.
She was
Oh,
fine. But get this, KaVonna, I
no.
did it for the rest of move-in. Move-in is 10 days, by the way. I did this on day
Yeah.
1. I
So
did
you
this on
said
like day
I'm hanging out with my bae. So I don't know
Yeah,
about y'all.
literally
It was
all
like,
of my shifts, I would like show up, talk a little, be like, this is easy, isn't it? For 2 people? Oh
mhm.
shoot, I think they need help at the office. Like, I'll be right back.
Oh, oh.
Really
She did it
bad.
for love.
No,
She did it for love. Okay, so
no.
then I have a question to cut in, and I'm gonna tap back to you, Summer. James, did you realize, oh wait, she's like coming over here like every day. Like, okay, was this
Yeah.
the moment you were like realizing something? She wasn't mad at you
So
anymore. Like,
yes, definitely. So yes, first of all, by that point, I was like, okay, maybe she isn't mad at me.
okay.
Beyond like moving, we also have training and stuff. So obviously, we talked a little bit throughout all of that. We've gone out in groups, to get food and whatnot, and just to hang out after trainings. By that time, I was pretty comfortable again. I was like, okay, we're off. We're at a good spot. Like I really like. I'm glad we're close again and hanging out together. That first day of moving, when she did that, I was like, oh, very nice. She just wants to like spend more time like talking with me. Like maybe she likes the station.
I
By the
did. I
second
did want to
day,
spend more time talking with you.
and I did too. By the second day, I looked at the schedule. I was like, wait a second, she's here again, and there's nobody that's supposed to be with me. I was like, okay, that's something to think about. I'm not
Mhm.
going to say anything because I enjoy it. Like I was enjoying your company. I like really liked having you there to talk with. And again, it like we like slipped back into that same like comfortable, like we just like I don't know, it's like a that's a good analogy for that. A sock fitting into a shoe. It was just very, very much like as easy as breathing for us, at least in my
Yeah.
opinion. I thought it was just so like natural and and fun. And I wasn't gonna be the one to rat her out. I certainly like hope
Yeah.
nobody else did at that point. I was like, okay,
Well, she
I
made it
like
10
definitely.
days.
Yeah, she did it at all 10 days.
Dude, I think Sonia I think Sonia noticed.
That was my next question. I was gonna, yeah, but sorry, continue, James. I'm gonna ask that next though. I'm curious.
Yeah, no, yeah, got where I was. But essentially I was warming up to the fact like, okay, like I'm like usually as an introverted person, shout out to all the introverts listening to this.
Oop.
I do like run out of energy pretty quickly when I talk with people. Whether that's like, you know, even close friends or like any like strangers, like I usually run out of energy pretty quick. But I was finding with Summer, like even though I'd been spending so much time with her after like a long period of time where I hadn't even seen her, it I had like an endless, you know, source of energy. I was never like getting tired. Like I never like wanted to step away. Like I just wanted to like stay in the moment. And I think I really started to warm up to the idea of like seeing her in a different light. And I don't know, it was very lovely, if I will say so
Mm.
myself. And
Yeah.
to address your next question, which I'm sure you're gonna ask about our supervisors,
Mhm.
I do think that they noticed, and
Mhm.
bless them. I think that they also let it be. I guess they were also part of the fan club or the people rooting for us or
Yeah.
something.
Wait,
Y'all
let
had a whole
KaVonna ask her
group.
question. What was your specific question?
No, that was my question. You're good. No, I was gonna ask, like, at this point, knowing, who they are, you know, I feel like they caught on. They had to have caught on, but they were probably like, no, we're just gonna let this exist and let this be. I feel like that'd have been my theory. And obviously, it seems like they didn't say anything to you because you stayed there. But I was just like, they had to have known. There's no way they didn't know.
I feel, especially looking back and they know now,
Mhm.
they would say yes. I feel like they didn't know, but maybe they did just
Okay.
because Sonia like reassigned me. She for the last like 8 days, like I was in charge of ordering lunches for everyone.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
remember that, James?
Yep. And that is a office duty, which is a lot closer to me. So if anything, I think that counts to her knowing and wanting to, you know, hook us up a little bit more. And I do want to bring up something that I think we talked to Leroy about last time we saw him. He actually said like he had thought that we were already like flirting or like into each other by our first year. So I think
Yes.
he was in the know, maybe even before I was in the know.
Well,
Wow.
I feel like everybody was in the know before you, James. At
What
this
Okay,
a
that's fair.
point,
guy.
That's fair.
I think you were late. Everybody else knew. It took Summer a minute, but she came before you. Like she was present before you were. That's hilarious though.
Yeah, you'd think all the rom-com watching would help me, but I don't know.
No.
It's
It
the
helped
opposite
me.
effect.
It
Yeah.
helped me.
So yeah, exactly. Okay, so then we go from you're figuring it out. Okay, I'm gonna be in closer proximity to him, scoot my chair over, get as close as I'm ready to sit next to him, et cetera, et cetera. How did we get from that to what external people know? Our rom-com squad, we were present for an elevation of their relationship where they went to Target. It was Target. They had their. Was it officially a date? That was what we never confirmed, but we were trying to figure it out. It was like I think it was
That's our first.
unsure.
That I'm gonna say that was our
That
first
was the
date.
first date,
Does your
right?
audience know about Romcom Squad? So we had
Yes and
established a
no.
group where we watched like rom-com movies like once a week, and it was really nice. We would get on Zoom
Yeah.
together, and it was a very nice community, right?
Hmm.
So I do consider that our first date. The only thing that I would say against that is just that we never officially called it a date between ourselves, at least you know the day of or in the moment.
Yeah.
But for me, it absolutely felt like a first date. Definitely by that time, I was like, oh wow, I like have feelings for Summer. I like think I want to spend more time with her and get to know her like even more than like what we already have.
Mhm.
And you know, at this point, we had already been like spending a lot of alone time like on Discord together because of you know COVID
Mhm.
restrictions. We'd been spending a lot of time playing games together, and I think just like having that time and like alone time with her really helped solidify for me that this was different. That this isn't just like another friendship, and this is like someone that I like really care about and wanna. She just put a pumped up
Yeah,
face on,
yes.
but yeah, I think that was really there really was a turning point, and like you said, it was nice, I guess, that y'all were there as well to see that.
I was just yeah, sorry to continue on. I it's funny that we know this much information, and I say we as in Romcom Squad because I was like, I'm pretty sure that was your first date as well, and but we were present for it, so I also apologize, but also like that's what made it special in a way too.
So
I'm yes, please someone tell this story. This is
let me
great.
give some preface to this.
Yes, break it down.
So James was right. We spent a lot of time on Discord together just because we were familiar with each other. You know, people were still very much social distancing, which, you know, I loved him and I'm very grateful for. But we would get on Discord and we would basically be in like a video chat. And I taught him how to play one of my favorite like mobile games. It's Brawl Stars by Supercell. And so I would like teach him how to play games. We would be playing games together. And then, you know, when it gets around dinner time, I'm like, I'm hungry. And he's like, oh, I am too. Do you want to go to In-N-Out? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll tell everyone else. Like, okay, I'll invite the rest of the our friends
Yeah,
who
that was our
also live.
usual routine.
Yeah. And then, you know, the next day would be the same thing. I would say, like, oh, I'm feeling Chipotle. And James would say, okay, invite everyone else. And I'm like, okay. So we go back and forth a little bit.
Mhm.
One day, because I'm like talking to Joyce. Wow, you really have to bring her on one of these days because I keep talking about her.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like, I really want to spend like alone time with him, but I don't know how to ask. Isn't that weird? And she was like, dude, I'm just not going to come anymore when you ask us to go to dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like panicking. I'm like, no, don't do this to me. Don't do
Reverse.
it. Don't do it. But sure enough, the next time I brought up dinner, I did not bring up, hey, I'm going to invite the rest of our friends to go with us. And I was like holding my breath, kind of waiting for him to say it.
Mhm.
And I
And
didn't.
he did not. So him like not doing that, that's what led to our first date. Where did we go? We went to
Raising
I was
Cane's.
gonna
the
say
grand
Raising Cane's. I mean, I was like, it's Raising
it was a grand it was like the grand opening. James, you remember the day, don't you? What was the day? It was
October 8th. Yeah, it was October 8th. Because
a
I do remember because we had like a little sequence of fun
sequence of
events for us
events.
those couple
Because
days,
I
yeah.
think it moved like really fast. You really could condense it into like a Wattpad story or like a book,
Oh.
the timeline. We went to Raising Cane's. We spent about an hour in the drive-through line in his car
Mhm.
talking. And during that time, Romcom Squad was on a Zoom meeting. And I
Mhm.
had messaged someone. I was like, ooh, first date, as like a joke. Like, ooh,
Mhm.
I'm on my first date right now, as a joke.
Mhm.
And it really got Romcom Squad riled up.
Can I pause you because there's things you're missing?
Okay, go.
Okay.
Gabby and Sabrina followed you.
Oh
I
yeah, not
that's what
yet.
I
So
was thinking. Yeah.
I was a part of your date before you even knew because we were on Romcom Squad with them as they were walking around Target.
Because after we ate the Raisin Canes in his car, we were like,
Yeah.
okay, do we want to go back to school? Do we want to? Target was right next to Raisin Canes.
Mhm.
And so we decided to go in. During which time, yeah, you're right. Sabrina and Gabby from Romcom Squad did indeed show
Yeah.
up.
They were there because when you were in your car, they were in their car. And
Yeah.
I remember I was getting we were all getting details. I forgot everybody who was there at the time, 100%. I think like Cynthia was still there, Lexi maybe or maybe not, but like we were all sitting there like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" Because mind you, for audience, we have been waiting. Romcom Squad officially launched prior to COVID hitting, but we stayed every week from there after March hit. And so it was like we knew we were in, we knew what was up. We were just waiting for them to DTR, define the relationship. So we were like, they're on a date. What? They're going where? So Gabby and Sabrina were our eyes and ears that day. And I know, strange, but that's the true identification of friendship. But I'm sorry, James. I know it was probably super weird. But go ahead. I know
Let
you had
it
something to say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, let it be known to everybody that I did not know that we were being, and I'll say it, stalked or followed during our first date. I did not know that at
Yeah.
all until I think the following week when someone was like, "Hey, by the way, remember our date?" Yeah, like Romcom Squad was there, like right
Yeah.
behind us or in the other aisle over. And I was like, "What?"
Mhm.
Great in
Yeah.
retrospect. Really like straight out of a rom-com, but like out of a
Truly.
rom-com story. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was. That's wonderful to
And we
hear.
did, I think we had a defining moment in Target.
We did.
So let me just tell this, because
Okay.
Gabby and Sabrina weren't physically there for that. They had turned around at that point because I was like, yo, I'm about to vomit. Like I'm like
Stress. Mhm.
losing my mind right now. James and I were in the book section, and James was looking at like games and books, and I was looking at books.
Mhm.
And James like came up next to me like really close, right? And
Mhm.
his hand had brushed against my hand. And you know what he did, KaVonna?
Mhm. What do you
He
do?
hooked his pinky finger on my pinky finger,
Mhm.
and I almost fainted. Not
Yeah, I would
almost,
say I know you freaked out internally.
but I
Ah.
but I did freak out
Mhm.
because it was so, he had the audacity to remain calm. That was bananas for me.
Mhm.
He was like, "Oh, have you read these before?" Hook's pinky, and I'm like, "Oh,
You
yeah,
can't even
yeah." Like, what
Oh,
did he just
oh.
say? Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I did my best to remain calm, and I, like stayed there, and I didn't let go, and he
Mhm.
didn't let go either, and it was very nice. And so I was like, "Oh, I want to check out the next aisle." So I started walking, and pinky fingers hooked, still
Mhm.
hooked. We were like following. Oh, we probably look so cringe now that I'm like thinking back at it.
I wasn't thinking about other people at that point. I was, yeah,
But
I was.
Yeah.
sometime during us, like after I realized, like, okay, he like really wants to remain in physical contact with me, and I was down.
Mhm.
So we were like walking through the aisles, and at one point, I don't even remember when, he like grabbed my full hand, and we interlocked fingers,
Mhm.
and we were
Mhm.
holding hands. Let it be known to the audience that I squealed and screamed internally. Also,
Mhm.
because this is the first time anyone has ever held my hand in a romantic context. So I was internally combusting. I did not know what to do with myself.
Mhm.
I was
I'm
probably,
gonna.
okay, go ahead.
I just want to share a small detail. I feel like you might be mad at me for sharing it, but I specifically remember because it was like the cutest thing ever when we
Oh,
did.
don't say it.
Yeah, yeah, Creighton, sorry, but it was the cutest thing ever. I'll double down on that. When we did like fully hold hands in Target, she did like she did a little like shuffle of her feet, like, and it was very noticeable and it was very, very sweet.
It was
Summer.
very noticeable. It was very noticeable.
Very
Oh,
sweetly noticeable, yes.
Whatever.
the minute you shuffled, it was yeah. If you shuffled at
Whatever.
all,
I did like a little
it's so
happy feet
cute.
dance. Like I lifted my knees a little bit, went
Well,
like
that's
that.
valid to be so like so it's probably to the point where you couldn't contain it mentally anymore. It was just like you said, it was a lot that happened. Bam, 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 bam. At that point, oh, he's holding your hand. It's over. Like,
That
so
was
it's
great.
okay. It's okay. It's not cringe.
That was
Again,
a
it's
little
one of the
cringe.
sweetest moments of my life. So
Whatever.
So how do we
So
get
yeah, we
from Target? We held hands. How do we get from there to act? Maybe I don't know. Did we actually say, "Hey, I actually like you"? Like or like where do we? How do we get there to "I like you"? Let's make this a thing.
yeah, so I think, and again, I think someone mentioned it earlier. It did move like pretty quick from that point. I think it was kind of just like the
Mhm.
dam breaking, like all of our like, feelings for each other kind of just like came pouring out. And
Mhm.
I think it was the next day we were like in my car watching Doctor Who.
I remember y'all used to do that.
Yes, we
Yes.
were
yeah.
like it was just two of
Hmm.
us watching, and I think it was Summer. It was you. It was you that said it first. You paused the episode and went, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I like you." And I said, "Oh, I like you too." And we were
Hmm.
like, "Cool." And then we played the episode and kept
That was
watching.
just a Doctor Who play.
Only because, and this is gonna be like really cringe, but that happened on October 9th. And I know this date because one of my family members' birthdays is October 10th.
Mhm.
And I remember, y'all can call me wild for this, but I remember thinking like, oh, I want like this day to be memorable, so I don't want to like tack it on to another special day, October 10th, someone's birthday. So it was like 11:57 and we were halfway through the episode and I was like, oh my gosh, I was gonna tell him after, but I don't want to wait like a whole nother day. So I just have to do it right now. So okay, do it.
Mhm.
So I paused the episode and I was like, hey, by the way, and he was like, yeah. Like confused.
I did not
I
say
like
it
you, I
like
like you,
that.
I like you a lot, okay? And then I played the episode. And then from there, I think like the next day we didn't start dating, but we were like dating, right? But no labels, like no, we want to be romantic partners, boyfriend, girlfriend, stuff like that. That came about a month later. But during those like couple weeks where we were like courting each other, it was just very nice and very sweet. It really did all happen like at once. It was really fast.
Wow, not y'all having a courtship. And then that's cute though. After a whole year of courtship, it's like, let's do another
Yeah.
month. Level 2. That's cool though. Um, I am curious now, like to like let the viewers know at home. So one, you probably didn't know, like coming in, how you'd be here at this point, living together in an apartment in Northern California now. We've done moved up the state. Like, so how did we progress to that? Like, what were these stages and what did they look like? What did these conversations look like with each other?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And I think so, and in a lot of ways, I feel like the stars aligned for us, and it was very fortunate. For example, that Summer was from Sacramento or Elk Grove, and I was from Fairfield. So we were both, while we had met and like created our relationship down in SoCal, we were very fortunate to have like our home bases and like our big support systems up in NorCal near each other.
Mhm.
So we didn't have that big, question of, oh, are we like, how is this going to look after graduation, right? Like we were more like, it almost wasn't even a question for us. It was just like, okay, like, yeah, we're maybe an hour and a half away from each other, but like, we're going to make it work. Like, we didn't even like, it was almost like a no hesitation type of thing.
Yeah.
You agree with that too, Summer? I think
Yeah.
that's how it
Well,
went.
yes, definitely a no question type of thing for us at that point in our relationship. We obviously talked, right? James and I talk each other's ears off, I promise you. And I run, much like other introverted people, I run with a lot of like anxiety in my body. So I remember towards the end of the year being like, oh shoot, like, is this gonna end? Maybe he's not as serious as I am. Maybe this, maybe that, a whole lot of maybes.
So
And oh yeah.
I guess let me recount what I said. I guess so. Everything I said earlier, it must have just been for me. So as an introvert, I do have like a lot of anxiety. That was like something that personally I wasn't even worried about. Like I was like, okay, this is like totally gonna like continue. This is gonna work. Like
Mhm.
it'll be
All right,
fine.
cutie pie. Enough from that.
Summer's like, we get it.
We get it. We get it. Yeah, but I'm very glad that he was so sure, because him being so
Mhm.
sure made me feel so secure when I did bring up
Yeah.
anxieties, right? When
Mhm.
I did bring it up to him and felt safe enough to be like, hey, like, man, if we're gonna end it when we graduate, you need to let me know now because that's gonna be really rough for me. Or
Mhm.
I was just like
Mhm.
kind of preparing myself because I know how it goes for a lot of other people. And I'm really glad that for me, I like to think that it was a really special exception that it worked out for me and James. Um, and I'm like so happy that it did, right?
Mhm.
Especially because we were only like an hour and a half away from each other. He would reassure me a lot whenever I needed reassuring. I'd reassure him when he needed reassuring. Communication is key, I will say. It really helped.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I do remember you asking me questions like that about your like concerns, like, oh, like what's gonna happen at graduation? And I remember like every single time I just I would ensure you that we would be okay and that we it would be all right. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, look at us now. I think it's turning out pretty well so far.
Right. Four
Just to
years
look back,
later.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, like that whole like the rest of that school year, we did the usual couple things. We just spent more time together. Um, both like whether or not we were abiding with some COVID guidelines on on campus, I will say
It'd
we
be
may
like
have
that.
broken a couple of those rules, but our relationship did benefit from it, at least in terms of being able to spend time together, whether that was doing homework, watching movies, catching up on animes.
Mm.
It was just a lot of like good quality time that we like made happen, or like yeah, essentially like had to fight for.
Yeah. I do want to note that that's one thing I appreciate about y'all. Like I feel like you have a really solid balance, it seems, like how it started off like Summer, we're anxious beings. You're more anxious than me. Sometimes you be stressing me out. I remember I'd be like, you're stressing me out. Like, but like that was what I really appreciated in regards to James. Like James was like very calm and collected when it came to you. Like it just always felt that way. Anything you would like relay to us would be like, yeah, he he's chill. Like, okay, cool. Like, but just that's just very James though, by the way. James is just chill vibes all day long. But I love that it was like that even, when Summer had these worries and doubts that he was just like, I got you. Chillax. Like so assured about what was coming. And I just thought that I think that's so cool. Because look at y'all now. So I for like viewers, listeners at home, how did we get to when did you know you were like, let's take this next step, let's move in together? Because I know that y'all were like, driving back and forth sometimes. And how did we get to let's take this next step?
And that was recent. That was more recent
Hmm.
than not, I guess. So that actually we first moved in together last year, April of 2023.
Hmm.
So like you said before that, ever since we graduated from 2021 up until then, we were doing the like semi long distance relationship of driving up to see each other or vice versa, just as often as we could. Um, and that moving in together, that was like one of the discussions that we had throughout that time. And we were like Summer said, communication is key. That was something that we were very transparent about talking about and setting expectations for each other. So I know that me personally, I was the one that actually was saying like, oh hey, like I want to hold off a little bit. Just I want to see, like I want to get like my career under me. Like I want to like get a job. I want to see what it's like outside of college now, and just like see how our relationship grows and like builds from here. And just as we spend time together and make like life work, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that we were just so when the idea came to me, like, oh shoot, I might want to like move in with James, just because after, over a year, 2 years of commuting back and forth to each other, I'm so grateful that he loves me so much that he was willing to, wake up at the crack of dawn,
Okay.
drive 1 to 2 hours to see me, and then that night drive right on back. And
Hmm.
we did that several times. When we both got jobs, it got a little bit harder, but we still made it work. We still, not a single week went by without like, physically seeing each other. And if it did, we were always in like communication, so it was fine. When work starts getting like really stressful though, I did let him know like, hey, I might want to move closer to the Bay Area soon. And while I was thinking about that, I think I am also ready for like this next stage in our relationship, right?
Got it. Hmm.
And when James told me that he wasn't as ready, that is not something that like broke my heart, right? That's just me saying like, okay, thank you for letting me know. I want you to know that I'm ready, but also not rushing you, making
Hmm.
sure that we don't like slide into moving together. Cause I know a lot of pitfalls that happen is like people will move in with each other for like convenience or like, oh, it's just
Yeah.
like, natural. I thought about it a lot.
Hmm.
And thankfully James did too, because he did have like, like I want to think about it, stuff like that. We talked a lot about. moving in together, and it was an easy decision at the end of the day. And we made the decision, yeah, around this time last year. It was very nice.
Yeah,
That's
no,
good.
definitely. I really do think that just having that open line of communication and being like fully like honest, like she said, like she didn't take any offense at me not being ready. And likewise,
Hmm.
I didn't feel any pressure from her whatsoever to like, get on the train of like moving in together. And I think that really like it really helped us get into a positive and healthy and like ready mindset to be able
Hmm.
to actively and intentionally take that next step.
Yeah, those are good notes and mentions. Like people out there, if you're thinking about it, like take these notes because like when like communication is key. Like that's super important. Um, like you said, some people do it for convenience, but I think when they do that, they take out the importance of that huge step. Like not everybody lives the same way, and like understanding your type of living style is super important and just being on the same page. And that's why communication. And I love that y'all were able to figure it out before that even happened and just kind of and be accepting of wherever the other person was, which also doesn't happen. So that's why people out there, if you're thinking about it, just, talk to each other first. Um, so right now, this was like we said, this was pretty recent. It's last year, almost a year, actually, almost a year at this point.
Mm.
Um, what else would you say is like the key to making your relationship successful in work so far this long, almost 4 years?
Oh my gosh, when you put it like that.
I
What
know.
have we been doing? What have we been
LOL.
doing right? I mean, we already touched on it, and
Yeah.
it is something that I really do like believe, and I know Summer agrees with me on this, is that it really is just about like transparency and like being honest with each other. Regardless of like any situation, I think just like being able to fully trust the other person and be able to speak like exactly what you think and like how you feel, and knowing that you're not going to get judgment, but you're going to get a conversation out of it. You're going to get
Mhm.
their opinion. You're going to be able to talk things through. I think that really, really helps solidify how confident and how comfortable you are in your own in the relationship.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
for me, having, wow, James is such a great partner. Love him.
Mhm.
Enough of
It's,
that.
uh-huh. It really like, wow. I must say that I am happier than I've ever been in my entire life with James, just because the way that our partnership and like relationship works is we both come into it with the mindset of, okay, if there's anything going on in our lives, we're like tackling it together. If there
Mhm.
is a problem, if there's a disagreement and an argument, quote unquote, like that, I don't like to look at them as like arguments, because at the end
Mhm.
of the day, I say this, James says it all the time as well. It's like us versus the problem. It's never us versus each other. There's not really a who's right, who's wrong situation, because those labels at the end of the day are pointless, right?
Mhm.
Most of the
True.
time.
Yeah.
Uh, because what do you get out of making your partner feel wrong, quote
Mhm.
unquote, when at the end of the day, your end goal is for both of you to be happy. And to do that, we like tackle a lot of problems together. And it
Mhm.
really has made our relationship work wonders. It's like been amazing. So that's like my piece of advice for anyone listening.
I love that you added that. First of all, you said it's us against the problem, not us against each other. That's a big deal. I also like to like in my ideal relationship and world, arguing isn't like obviously there's gonna be disagreements, but I like the fact like that's the thing. Like arguing isn't a thing. Like we're not about to be, yelling at each other, trying to figure like who's right, who's that. Like no, like communicating, figuring out us against the problem. And I like that. That's a good quote. You should put that in your sticker shop, Summer. Just
Oh,
saying. Put, you put that in your sticker shop. I want to plug you
shoot.
when we're done. Um, but before we wrap up, I did want to give, they're going to be kind of rapid fire, but they're bigger, they're longer answers, so it's okay if it's not like super fast. But I did want to ask them like just random questions in regards to like relationships. What is one of the funniest moments in your relationship so far? You could think of one. I know
Funny.
when I throw a random question at you, I gotta make you think.
Mm,
Anything ridiculous
oh,
one or the other has done or
I'm gonna out him for this because we were not able to talk about it earlier in the
you could.
podcast. So KaVonna, this was when you were graduated. So this was James and I were dating at this
Okay.
point. And at work, we were still in college. I think it was during a work meeting. James was in charge of making the schedule for people on duty, like on call.
Mm-hmm.
And as people were, everyone volunteers for certain time slots, like, oh, I want to work Saturday, 4 p.m., blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And because it doesn't work out evenly every time, I remember James was like, okay, we really need someone for February 7th. And I think someone was like, oh, I volunteer. We need someone for February 21st. Okay, yeah. We need someone for February 14th. Silence.
Crickets.
As you all know, Valentine's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm over here like, I'm not going to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what James does?
He signs up, doesn't he?
James is like, I can do it. I don't think I have anything going on that day. Types his name. And
Jay.
me?
I was focused on scheduling.
Okay,
This is
okay.
not an excuse. It's just the reality of the situation.
Everyone who was in the know, because we weren't like an open couple. I don't think we had hard lunched each other yet like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gabby, eyes on me. Sabrina, eyes
Yeah.
on me. Joyce, eyes on me, giving me the panic eyes. I'm texting James like, hey love, but like, hey honey, like, hey James, are we doing anything on Valentine's Day? Like, James, Valentine's
Mhm.
Day. But he obviously wasn't looking at his phone, right? Because he was in charge
Yeah,
of the
because he was
schedule.
scheduling.
And James, I don't know what it was that made you look at your phone, but
I think I caught. I'm not even sure if it was you. I caught someone looking at me with some wild eyes, like, "What are you doing?" Or like, "Oh, you need like something's wrong." I was like, "Okay, maybe I should check. Like, maybe someone texted me something or
so it was
something."
so funny because
Yeah.
if no one knew he was in a relationship before this, they definitely knew at this moment because he looks down at his phone very calmly because
Mm-hmm.
he's always calm,
Mm-hmm.
looks right back up, deletes his name, and is like, oh, by the way, everyone, I can't do February 14th actually. ... Any volunteer? Any volunteer?
Take back. That's a funny TV moment, by the way. I just want to say that's very
You think
TV
so?
moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so someone, I think it was Gabby who like volunteered. She was like, "Oh, I can
She
take
took one for the
February."
team.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I gave him a hard
that's
time
good.
for it.
As you
Deserved.
should. As you
Yeah,
should.
deserved. I take full responsibility for that one.
James, did you
Okay,
have a funny moment?
a funny moment.
Mhm.
I know I'm missing. I know I'm missing quite a bit.
Yes, it's okay.
But one
If
of
you
the
don't
ones
have
that
to.
pops up is it was actually during our trip to Hawaii, and I think in retrospect it was a little more funny. Maybe in the moment it wasn't as funny. But summer, it was like our first trip out together. It was also with a couple of our other friends. It was right after graduation in 2021.
Mhm.
Summer and I were out at the beach in Honolulu, and we were meeting my sister and her brother, her husband, for the first time.
You're gonna tell that story, James?
Yeah, because I think we all were able to laugh at it at the end of the day.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And I know that that wasn't the first of my siblings that you had ever met, I think, but that was definitely the first time you had met her. And I think we had given you the impression that she was like the most strong-hearted one, like the most speak her mind one. And I think you were pretty nervous about meeting them at first. But we wanted to make it. You wanted to make an impression. So did I. Like we were like ready at the beach, and they live in Hawaii, so they're used to all things beach, whether that's surfing, just lounging,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So Summer, I know you aren't as used to surfing or like swimming out in the ocean, but I know you were fully ready to just jump in there and like prove yourself, I guess, or show like put yourself in a good light. So we went out surfing together, and they were also there, and I think just in the course of that, the waves were pretty rocky that day. And this is
Mhm.
not Summer's fault, but her board was waterlogged after the fact. We like looked at it and it was like it was like full of water. It was really heavy. It was just making it
Mm.
really unwieldy to work in the water. Summer was doing her best to tough it out and stay out there and like really like just like, yeah, like I'm down with the waves too.
Get to the point, honey. You know what you want to say.
Basically after, like maybe 20, 30 minutes, she's like, okay, I'm gonna head in. And I was like, okay, like I'm gonna stay out here for a little bit, but I'll follow you in. But I knew
Mhm.
something was wrong. I knew she was like being a little more quiet than usual. So I ended up following her back in like right after. She was so seasick. She like had to sit out for like 15 to 20
Ooh.
minutes. And then my sister and brother-in-law were worried about her and they were like fawning over her, like, oh my God, like what do you need right now? Like, can we help you at all? And I just think it was so like it's just so sweet and so funny that you put yourself out of your comfort zone for that. And I love that about
So
you. I
the
Oh
reason
appreciate
why
wow.
he that it's funny is
Mhm.
because the very first time he like met my sister, I was like vomiting. I was so seasick.
Oh.
I was like into like an ABC bag. Anyone who has ever been to
Yeah.
Hawaii
like one of
will
those,
know,
yeah, with grocery stores. Yeah.
Wah! My
Mhm.
guts out. And he's like, my sister's coming. She's on her way. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm pretty sure his sister even told me after. She was like, yeah, when we first got onto the beach, we were like, oh my gosh, who's that? Like vomiting up their whole stomach. And it turned
Yeah.
out to be me, her little brother's girlfriend.
And you still
And
went
that
out
was our
there.
I know that was our first
She's,
time meeting.
I was so worried in the moment. I was like, oh my God. She's like, because she was out.
He
You
looks
were like,
back and he thinks it was a very valiant effort. That's why he thinks it's a very endearing, funny moment.
it was
Mhm.
very endearing. You did your best. And yeah,
Yes.
that's what
Yeah.
matters.
I would also like to say very, very storyline moment. I just want to
Yeah.
say, yeah, because I'm just imagining a lot of blah, blah. Are you okay? I'm fine. What? Where's the board? Let's go back. Like,
She's like, nice to meet you, by the way.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, oh. Well, I'm glad you can laugh at it now. That's hilarious. Summer. That's hilarious, though. My goodness, ma'am, you weren't feeling well. Oh, well, I'm glad that it worked out at the end, and then at least they weren't like, "Oh my gosh, she's just thrown up the whole entire
No,
day."
it
Like,
was
yeah, yeah, it worked out. We're gonna close it. I feel like we could talk about this forever and ever and ever. But I love that we got a little small snippet of your relationship and how it started and where it's going. I'm so excited for y'all and to see continuous growth. Um, Audience members, listeners, please share your Valentine's Day stories. Once again, this is a special Valentine's Day episode, so feel free to share. I'm gonna drop the socials so you can be able to tag Summer and James so they can like see what's been inspired by their stories. And then also thank you, audience, for tuning in and just being a part of sharing the joy of friendship and the joy of love. Thank you, Summer and James, for joining and sharing your story. You definitely didn't have to, so I appreciate it. Um, Peeps, share, like, and follow this podcast. Send it to a friend, a family member, a loved one. Season 2 is coming out soon, so be on the lookout. You got to follow me at KaVonna on Instagram and at the Introvert Social Hour on TikTok to get those podcast updates. If you want to follow Summer and James, Instagrams, it's at Summer X Tie, and for James, it's at JARR Roses. I'll just cut it short there. And then also too, shout out to Summer's Redbubble shop. It's at Stories with Summer. The width is just a W. I'm gonna put it in the description. And then also TikTok at Summer Season Things. So definitely check out more about Summer and James. Get some sunshine, get some air, have an amazing week. I will see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour. Thanks for joining. Bye.